Hi guys, welcome back to the channel, and today I am going to be doing a spoiler review for Wonder Woman 1984. I saw the movie on Christmas on HBO Max with my family, and I've waited a little while. I wanted to rewatch the movie a couple times, just kind of see if multiple viewings will make me like it more, and it did not. But I do want to give you a little bit of a backstory about me. I absolutely love female superheroes. Me as a gay man, who happens to be in touch with his feminine side, I love seeing female superheroes or anti-heroes doing amazing things, and I think it's great if it's handled very well. I think female superhero movies are great, female-led especially. I mean, I liked Birds of Prey, and I know that's controversial right there. However, I did not like Wonder Woman 1984. I've watched the movie 4 times, and I just have to say, for me, it's a no. And yeah, so I just wanted to come talk to you guys and maybe see what you think of the movie, but this is going to be my review for the movie. So let's get started. Okay, so I do want to preference this by saying that I saw Patti Jenkins' tweets to Linda Carter, and so I had a feeling going into the movie that it would be very Linda Carter-esque, her Wonder Woman. It'd be very inspired by that era, which happened in the 70s and not the 80s. And I do have to say, I don't know why this movie was set in 1984. I mean, minus a few scenes where you see clothing, you see that you see people's clothing, you see arcades and stuff like that. But other than that, this movie has absolutely nothing to do with 1984. And the reason why I'm bringing that up is because in Stranger Things, they at least put it in a time frame where it'll make sense as to why parents don't care where their kids are at, on their bikes at midnight, And with this movie, I just feel like it didn't make sense to put it in the 80s. It definitely could have been put before that, or heck, even after that, because to me, I didn't get it. I didn't get it at all. And I know that's kind of sidetracking off of what I just said, but I did want to throw that in there. It didn't quite make sense to me. And, maybe I'm just that person that I just don't get it. Maybe I don't get it. And you know what? That's okay. If you love this movie, I absolutely applaud you. I'm glad that you do. I'm glad that this movie was good enough for you, and I would like to say it just really wasn't for me. But yeah, I do want to say that going into this, I knew that it was going to be heavily Linda Carter inspired. So that right there definitely was not enough to make me worry. I mean, after seeing the trailer, I was super hyped for it, especially since I love the first movie so much. I hold that movie near and dear to my heart. The No Man's scene gives me chills. The No Man's Land scene gives me chills every time. Every time. I love it so much. So yeah, my next point is I didn't know this until after the fact, but Patti Jenkins had full creative control. Not only was she the director of this movie, she also my bad. She also wrote the script with Geoff Johns, which, I mean, if you guys know his history with DC, you'll know what I'm about. The script itself just wasn't that great in the movie to me, and it has no fault to do with the actors. But yeah, I didn't know that she had full creative control over the movie, and I actually went back and checked to see if she wrote the first movie, and she did not. She just directed it, and it maybe comes down to maybe you're a better director than a writer, if that makes sense. Because, those are technically two different jobs. And if you don't really have the background of the character and you just know what the character means to you. To me, this movie was Patti Jenkins version of Wonder Woman that she held near and dear to her heart. Like, instead of trying to go off of the comics and being comic accurate and doing doing things that would please the fans, she wanted to make a movie that would also please herself and maybe a few fans. I felt like it was sort of like a fan film, but with just the budget of a studio blockbuster, if that makes any sense. Okay, so moving on. The opening scene in Themyscira was actually not that bad. I kind of liked it, you know, for the visual shots and stuff. Like, Patti Jenkins is a great director, don't get me wrong. And I fully trusted her with the sequel, but we see how that's turned out. Especially the Rotten Tomatoes score. I don't know if it's worth a 60 for me, but it's definitely not worth anything above like a 72. But I don't know about 60. But yeah, the opening shot in Themyscira was absolutely amazing. I like seeing the Amazon, what is it? It's kind of like there's sort of version of like the Olympic Games to see who's gonna be like, you know, the best Amazon of them all. And for some reason, Diana was allowed to participate, even though in the first movie, her mom didn't want her training at all. She just wanted her to be a kid. She didn't want her to know that she didn't want Diana to know that she was the god killer. Like, she literally is the daughter of Zeus. So continuity wise, that didn't really make sense to me, especially seeing Diana like shooting a bow and arrow, or firing a bow and arrow. It definitely didn't make sense to me, as for continuity, but this film doesn't really have much to do with the, you know, first film with its predecessor. I thought the Themyscira scene, the opening scene, was too long. It was probably, I think it was about 20 minutes long, and that was a pretty crazy opening scene. That was a pretty crazy long opening scene, especially whenever the message was like not even really that important. The message of the opening scene was pretty much, don't cheat your way to the top, or don't like don't take the easiest route to get to the finish line. And it's like 20 minutes of that just to get that, which sort of ties into the ending of the movie, but not really, if that makes sense. The next opening scene, there's two opening scenes in the movie. There's the Themyscira flashback, and then there's the mall opening scene where there's a bunch of goons, and they're like trying to rob a jewelry store that's like a black market seller of antiques on the side. And that scene, that whole scene, I thought was pretty great. I honestly thought that should have been the beginning of the movie, because you see it open to like 1984. You see what life was sort of back then. And then you just see Wonder Woman off screen, like saving people, which also doesn't make sense because I thought she went into hiding after World War One. But hey, I don't know if hey, it might not fit the continuity. I don't know. This is just my thoughts on it. It doesn't fit. I thought the mall scene was actually pretty cool, and should have been I feel like it should have been the opening scene, because with the Themyscira opening scene, it kind of just felt like they only did that because the actors were under contract, and so they needed a reason to put them in the movie, and it just kind of seemed a little bit forced and a little bit too long. But this mall scene I thought was pretty great, but not that good, considering the special effects and like the practical effects were not that great. It was really cheesy, and at first I honestly kind of appreciated it. Like, to me, it was like a cool throwback to like Linda Carter as Wonder Woman, which I absolutely loved. Me and my mom still watch that to this day. But I thought it was very great. I thought it was not great. I thought it was pretty okay. And I did appreciate the cheese. I know a lot of people didn't like it in the beginning, but I thought it was great. At least in the beginning. I was like, oh wow, you know, they're doing something that's kind of off it's kind of off from what people would normally want from their comic book movies. But I was like, if this is just in the opening scene, that is awesome. Um, so then after that, it cuts back to her going home, and we get to see how lonely Diana is now that she lost all her friends and Steve. She lost, I know Etta was one, and then the other guys from the first movie, you see pictures of them through the years, and you see Etta as an old woman. And it was sad. It was really sad to me because I loved Etta. But it was also sort of peaceful in the way that, you know, they all kept in contact with one another even after, you know, some of them died. And, of course, Etta died. And after that, we pretty much get to see Diana being, you know, an antiques clerk or someone. It's like someone that goes and, like, gets antiques and studies about them and, you know, does all that stuff. And that was pretty cool. And we also get introduced to Barbara. Barbara Minerva, yes, please. I actually did really enjoy the scenes with Barbara Minerva. I thought Kristen Wiig did a pretty okay job, although it's nothing really different from what she normally does. I think she's a great stand-up comedian, but I don't know about actress. But I actually did feel for Barbara Minerva, and I actually did like her a lot. Now, Cheetah, on the other hand, that was a disaster. That was an absolute disaster. I'm sorry. I feel like this movie definitely had a sort of a Batman Returns-esque style to it, in terms of you have two villains, and so one of them has to get less screen time than the other, and that was definitely Cheetah. And I feel like what would have made this movie even better is if they would have just had one or the other. They either would have had Maxwell Lord or they would have just had Cheetah. That's how I feel about that. Cheetah's CGI is really bad. She said that, like, she doesn't want to be like anyone else. She wants to be number one, an apex predator. And then, like, she goes off screen and then randomly shows back up at as Cheetah at the end of the movie, which didn't really make any sense to me. And it would have been nice to see her actually transform into Cheetah after she got a wish. But Barbara actually wishes to be like Diana, beautiful, sexy, special, and ends up inheriting not only Diana's characteristics and, you know, what makes Diana stand out in a room, but also Diana's powers. And so that's where combining that with the apex predator, I guess, made like a Cheetah, which, I mean, I would have been fine having Cheetah in the movie, but why are you gonna cheapen it when she barely gets any screen time in the movie? And the time she does get screen time, I'm telling you, it's literally her just making sure Diana does not get in touch with Maxwell Lord. That's literally all she's in there for. But anyway, Barbara, yes. Cheetah, no. I feel like what they could have done is introduce Barbara in this movie. And if there was a sequel, she could have maybe been the, you know, villain in the sequel. I just feel like it should have been a little bit more future-based as well. Like, what could come next in another Wonder Woman movie. Yeah, also, Maxwell Lord was pretty good. But it just didn't really hit home with me because I know that Pedro Pascal is a wonderful actor. Everyone in this movie, I feel like, really did a really good job. They just weren't given a lot. And I feel like Pedro Pascal was not given, wasn't given, like, seriously any direction, because there are times where it's just, like, too cringy. Like, he's just hamming it up too much. And, I mean, I guess that sort of fits the character and, like, the setting, because, you know, the 80s are, like, bigger, bolder, all this stuff. And, yeah, he was actually a businessman, a failing businessman in the movie until he come across the Dreamstone, which I thought was dumb. The Dreamstone just grants people wishes, which I thought was kind of a cop-out. I don't really like movies that deal with that because they all kind of end the same. You can kind of always picture it. Because it's more of those cliches. And it wasn't even like a genie. Because with like a genie, I feel like, yeah, we know the end result. You use all your wishes. But with that, it can happen so many different ways. And I feel like this would definitely was like, you can see the writing on the wall as soon as it got introduced. Diana wished for Steve to come back, and Barbara wished to be like Diana and ended up inheriting her powers. And then Maxwell Lord, ends up wishing to be the Dreamstone itself, which, I mean, is actually kind of smart. But the Dreamstone works as a monkey's paw, meaning what it'll give, it'll take as just as much. For Diana, for some reason, it ended up taking her powers. For Barbara / Cheetah, it ended up taking her humanity, her kindness, her warmth. And for Max, it ended up taking his life force. Like, he just got really weak and he was dying pretty much. So yeah, he was good, but I feel like the performance was kind of hammed up a little too much, a little too crazy. I'm the king of the world. I can grant so many wishes, and it was okay. This movie is okay. Another point I have for Wonder Woman 1984 is there is not enough action. There are 4 action scenes in a 2-hour and 30-minute movie. Why? I don't get that. One of the things that I was really excited for going into this movie was seeing Wonder Woman back in action, better than ever, you know, independent, on her own, like kicking butt and taking names. And I just don't feel like we got that with this film. Out of an almost 3-hour movie, we got 4 action scenes, and the last one was so forced it made me cringe. I was really upset because, you know, as much as I definitely love story and plot, this didn't really have a consistent one, or at least one that didn't make full sense. So you would think that you would try to at least put enough action sequences and do them in a really good way that would appease fans. Like, because, like, show us what we've wanted to see with Wonder Woman, you know? Like, show us that, like, those fight scenes in the first movie. Show us, like, keep showing us her warrior side. And I know there's a big division on what people consider their version of Wonder Woman. You know, you have the peacemaker, the lover, not a fighter, and then, you know, you have the warrior. I prefer the warrior, especially after watching this movie, because she pretty much is weak and refuses to fight. And I'm like, see, I get that. But if someone's trying to murder me, I'm not just gonna be like, no, you're a better person than this. I'm gonna be like, okay, well then it's you or me, and it's obviously not gonna be me. Now, one point I did want to touch on, Steve coming back made me so incredibly uncomfortable and weirded out. It just was not executed very well, and I'm going to explain that. So, in order to get Steve back, Steve's consciousness takes over another man, who doesn't even have a name in the movie, by the way. He was just titled as Handsome Man, which that's okay, I guess. But it just creeped me out because his consciousness takes over another living person, and then when he meets with Diana, he doesn't look like Steve. Obviously, we see him as Steve because the audience is supposed to be seeing him through Diana's eyes. But, like, this Wonder Woman, like, forces, like literally has sex with someone who is not Steve but is Steve. And that is just a whole can of worms that like just made me really uncomfortable and really took me out of this film a little bit. And like more than just, and it took me out more than just like the bad CGI and like the special effects, because like I just knew that this was not going to come across well as soon as I watched it. I couldn't take it. Like I actually cringed in a couple scenes. And this also leads me to my next point. You know that obviously Wonder Woman 1984 is like, it has pretty much no action in it. You've seen all the action in the trailer. That is all the action there is. And another thing I wanted to bring up, does Wonder Woman need a man to survive and to fight? And hear me out when I say this. She is a literal god who has been trained by the best warriors in the world, literally can pick up a tank and take a headbutt from Superman. Does she actually need a man to be in the field and, like, save her? And I'm not saying I wasn't happy that Steve came back. I just didn't think it was necessary. Because he got to say his goodbye to her in the first film. Of course, you know, that she didn't get to say goodbye to him because she didn't understand what was really going on. But I would have rather left off on that note than have him come back and be like her saving grace, as in literally always saving her. Which that to me is not a good way to lead a female, like that's not a good way to portray a female-led movie, is constantly having to be saved by her boyfriend. And that brings me to like why does she need a man to survive and to keep going, you know? And I just don't understand it. Pretty much after that, what I think of the movie is it's kind of a jumbled mess. Like, the story is everywhere. There's a lot of things that'll pull you out of this movie, and, like, definitely logic is one of them. Like, in the scene with the invisible jet, which I did not like, she goes to a Smithsonian, and Steve knows how to fly a modern jet plane, and then she turns it invisible, quote unquote, because of Zeus, who made the mascara invisible. She randomly started trying it, and it seemed very forced, and it just didn't really work for me. I didn't like it. The logic in that, like, how are you gonna go to Smithsonian, right, and see a fighter jet on display, which one, they would never put that on display if it was working, much less have fuel in them, much less conveniently be by a freaking, takeoff, place. Like, what? Completely. And then the whole invisible jet scene, I think that was, like, I was supposed to be like, oh, look at them, but I was more like, where did that come from? Like, why are you not explaining any of this? Oh, and if you're looking for an explanation, you are not going to get it on absolutely anything in this movie. You will not. I did want to go over some things that I did like about the movie. Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman, hands down, best casting decision ever. I feel like she actually had a lot, like, she's grown a lot as an actress, and she's matured, and she knows what works and what doesn't. And her emotions in some scenes are so good. Even when she's not talking, you can just tell, like, she's in pain. That was really good. I did like Barbara. I did like Barbara Minerva. Didn't like Cheetah, though, but I liked Barbara. Max was okay. And I did like somewhat of the flying scene, because I do know Wonder Woman flies in the comics, and I'm not going to be this person that sits here and be like, oh my god, how? She's a superhero, get over it. That's all I gotta say, because she does it in the comics. You can't really argue with the comics. I just thought it was random because it comes right after she says goodbye to Steve, and that scene did hit a lot. I think that scene was definitely executed very well. And then that's when she renounces her wish, and when you renounce your wish, whatever it took from you, you'll get back. So she did get her powers back, and then she started flying after that, and it was okay. It didn't really take me out of the movie. The editing, though, is really odd in this movie, because right after that scene where she says goodbye to Steve, right, she, I guess, wraps around Big Ben, and then, she starts her flying, and then she's, like, going over that, like, it looks like she's going to find Max in Christian wig, and then, it randomly cuts to her going to her apartment, even though her apartment was obviously in the opposite direction. And you even see her grappling the lightning in that scene as well, and it just didn't make sense to me. Didn't make sense to me at all. Now let's move on to the ending. The ending of the movie, no, absolutely no. That was bad. The ending of the movie was really bad. I didn't like it. I didn't like it at all. So pretty much you have Wonder Woman coming down in her golden armor, which, by the way, she got from this random Amazon that stayed back while all the other Amazons fled to Themyscira. And then that one, they didn't really bring that up, but she didn't actually explain how she got it. She just said she found it and it belonged to Amazon that was around Earth, and that she tried finding her, but she couldn't. So she comes in with her golden armor, and let me tell you right now, that was just in there for looks. She does nothing with it. It gets destroyed by Cat Lady. And by the way, yes, Cheetah did look like something out of the movie Cats. It was horrifying. Especially the face. Oh, the face looked like a fish. I didn't like it. But anyway, after she electrocutes Cheetah, because Cheetah wouldn't renounce her wish, she goes and finds Max, and then she gets stomped by wind because he's, broadcasting to all of this, he's broadcasting all over the world, granting all these people wishes from some satellite, and it doesn't really at all make sense. It just doesn't make sense. Like, that's it right there. She tries to lasso him because the lasso of truth, which they also did kind of foreshadow in the first movie, it'll let you see the truth. Like, not only will it make you admit the truth, it'll let you see the truth itself. But the way they did it was really bad, because she obviously, like, the wind is pushing her back, because wind is enough to keep Wonder Woman at bay. And she ends up wrapping it around him as he's granting people all these wishes, and the world is going into absolute chaos. And she starts speaking, and the speech was good. The acting was good. It just was out of place. And then, the lasso, for some reason, starts broadcasting to the rest of the world too, letting people see their true selves, which didn't really make sense. And then it showed a little bit of Max's backstory. And then he renounces his wish, which undid all the other wishes. But, so he undid his wishes. He undid his wish, which undid everybody else's wish except for Barbara's, because Barbara never unsended her wish. When she became Cheetah, it was because Max granted her another wish. And, so I'm guessing she still has her powers, but we don't ever see her. She is just stranded on some, base, and yeah. And then the movie cuts to Christmas time. I guess everyone just forgot the world was going to shit, right? And then you see the guy that Steve took over, and it was awkward and weird, but she did compliment his outfit, which I guess was good. And so my final thoughts on the film really was that it was a mess. I didn't really like it. It was kind of, it was a it was just a cringy, cheesy mess of a movie that had certain good parts, but was not good overall. The script is really awkward. The actors, I think, are doing the absolute best with what they have, which really doesn't seem like that much. And, yeah, to me, it was just it was a C minus. Honestly, it was a C minus. I didn't really care for it. However, a really good cameo was Linda Carter. Linda Carter came back, and she was the Amazon that originally had the golden armor. So they actually made Linda Carter an actual character who could potentially return in a future movie, which would be awesome. Yeah. And here's to praying that Patti Jenkins doesn't ruin Wonder Woman 3. Please, Patti, we believed in you. We were all rooting for you. And then you gave us garbage. And now you're trying to divide. Now she's trying to divide the fan base. And if you really enjoyed this film, you're a Wonder Woman fan. But if you didn't, you're just a hater. You're a troll. And I'm just like, girl, cry me a river. Your movie was shit. Sorry about it. But yeah, that's my review for Wonder Woman 1984. I don't recommend you go out and watch it because you're just wasting your almost 3 hours of your life for absolutely nothing. So yeah, I will see you guys in the next video. Thank you so much for watching. And if you have any comments or like want to explain something that I didn't explain very well, feel free to sound off in the comments and I'll have an open discussion. I mean, people aren't going to change my mind that I didn't like this movie. But if you did, please tell me why you did. And we can have an open discussion about it. I may not agree with you, but I'm also not going to say that you're wrong. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.